Hey everyone, Paradigm here, and this is gonna be another one of my rants. So, we are only about a few weeks away from Ultimate's release, and I really need to get something off my chest. I really just want to nail this one home, because it's something that really bugs me when it comes to Smash discussions, and we see it all the time. Twitter threads and Discords, and you know, it seems innocent enough, but at worst, it's infuriating. Like, I can't put this into words enough. Can we please, moving into Ultimate, kick the habit of making these matchup charts that we see. These matchup charts of saying, like, you know, this is my character, these are the characters that they go +2 against, these are the characters they go even against, all of these. There's a few reasons why I find these matchup charts so bad and just a waste of time, but I'm going to break it down into 3 main components, alright? So let's get started with part 1, subjectivity. Alright, so don't get me wrong when I say this, there are some objective truths to many aspects of Smash Bros, be it like matchup charts or tier lists or whatever. Like, Smash 𝐌𝐿𝐬𝐜 was undeniably a better character, had better tools, better performances in tournaments than a character like Zelda. And that's why we see 𝐷𝐜 doing better at large events, even at locals typically, than Zelda. These are facts that like hold true even after lots of patches, lots of years of metagame development. Assuming that there weren't any major patches, most of the times these are pretty uniform. But there are just so many undeniably subjective things about Smash Bros, especially in a competitive setting, that there are just so many factors that have to be considered to making something, some sort of objective truth possible. So like, let me give an example of this. Let's just even say something simple as comparing 2 characters' aerials. Let's compare, like, Mario and Mega Man's back air, okay? Like, which is the better back air? How are we gonna say this? We can look objectively at the moves, look at things like frame data of the startup, the ending lag, how much damage and knockback it deals. We can say things objectively, like Mario's back air comes out later than Mega Man's, or Mega Man's back air has more end lag and more landing lag than Mario's. Like, these are objective truths. And even though everybody can agree on that, we might not agree on which move is better overall, or which move has more utility. It's because of something that we know as weighted valuing. Somebody might say things like, you know, how fast the move comes out is way more important than how much ending lag it has, or how safe it is on whiff or on shield. It's all about your playstyle, what you value. And even though this is a contrived example, this is kind of what happens whenever we talk about matchups or even tier lists. Let's apply this to a matchup, okay? If we were like talking about, I don't know, this is gonna be an example. You guys are gonna disagree with me on what I say, but like, just take this as a thought experiment. Let's say Shulk versus Yoshi, okay? If we break down the matchup into how it actually plays, we might agree. You guys, again, might disagree with this, but let's just pretend that these are accepted truths, okay? Let's say that Shulk tends to fare better in neutral. Yoshi doesn't really like having disjointed hitboxes against him, so even though Shulk has slower aerials, he can kind of wall him out better. But Yoshi tends to get more reward for winning neutral, so he gets a lot stronger punish game, he's got a really strong tools for dealing with Shulk strings with heavy armor on his double jump, frame 3 nair, so Shulk doesn't get a lot of punish game, whereas Yoshi has great damage input, really strong heavy punishes if he like reads your air dodge or whatever, and Shulk has a rather weak disadvantage, so he really only has Malk air dodge to deal with juggles. His nair isn't fast, he doesn't have a great get off me tool. So if you disagree with this, it's fine, but just assume that that is how we break down the matchup. Shulk tends to do better in neutral, but Yoshi gets more out of winning neutral than Shulk does. So if we accept that, who wins the matchup? So, can we say with certainty, like, if you ask any Yoshi who just spent the entire game getting walled out by a Shulk, never even able to get in, he's gonna be upset and say that Shulk wins. Like, how am I supposed to get in with this character with huge aerials? And that's a valid conclusion. Winning neutral is very important to winning a game. If you If you need to win neutral to get punishes, how are you going to win the game without it? That's fine. But if you ask a Shulk main who had his neutral, he lost a neutral to a Yoshi and just ate so much damage from like double down airs and air dodge read fair off stage, he's gonna be singing a different tune. He's gonna be saying, I make one mistake and Yoshi takes my stock. And that seems reasonable as well, because how can you be expecting to play neutral perfectly all the time if the other character gets a lot more off it? It feels like, you know, a very momentum-based matchup that Yoshi can just steal your stock away from you. And that, again, is what I'm talking about with this weighted valuing. If you value neutral more, you're going to see that maybe you're going to say Shulk wins the matchup. But if you're somebody who favors punishing more, that you think stronger punishes are going to make you win a matchup, that's going to be your answer. So that's part one of why I really dislike my matchup charts, matchup discussions. Is it's so subjective that you could be two people agreeing on how a matchup is played and then still say character X wins or character Y wins because you disagree on what matters more. Alright? This leads into my next point, which is obscurity. This is something that we see both in matchup charts, and tier lists, okay? And then a lot of this also applies to tier lists, because you'll see this same sort of discussion come out of tier lists. By attempting to list things in these pretty, you know, like ordered lists in a concise manner, we obscure a lot of the information that they're attempting to provide, and it's really defeating the purpose of why we make these things. Like, let's look at an example, okay? If we go over to Shulk 101 and look at the matchup page for Captain Falcon, we have a rating system where people are using a community ranking rating. And the general consensus is that Shulk loses or otherwise struggles in the Captain Falcon matchup. But what does that tell us? Assuming I've never played against a Captain Falcon before, what could I do with this information to help me do well in the matchup going into a tournament? Should I play patiently in neutral? Does he have like some sort of incredible walling game where Shulk is going to have a hard time to get in? Should I avoid going off stage to edge guard him? Does he have great, like, you know, ledge traps? Does he have great juggling tools? Like, all I know is that something about this matchup people struggle in. And there's nothing I could do other than just being cautious in all regards. Like, this doesn't tell me, I guess that's not a horrible thing to do. In general, patient play is good in Smash Bros, but it doesn't tell me something like, you know, Shulk, even if he struggles, Shulk can edgeguard Falcon well, so maybe I'm gonna be playing so defensively, I am, like, scared to go off stage because I'm thinking I'm gonna get, like, he has some great off-stage shenanigans that I don't know how to deal with. Like, it doesn't tell me that I'm going to want to play in a certain way to have my maximum chance of winning. All it tells me is I'm gonna have a rough time. So, like, if I had to akin this to some real-world equivalent, imagine that you're, like, a chemist working in a laboratory, and you're about to do a reaction with, like, these two chemicals, and your boss comes over and he tells you, okay, this chemical, it's level 2 dangerous, and this is a level 4 dangerous. And what are you supposed to do with that information? All he tells you is that, like, this one is kind of dangerous, and this one is very dangerous. Like, what does that mean? Is it flammable? Is it poisonous? Is it toxic if you breathe it? Are you just not supposed to eat it? If it gets on your skin, is it corrosive? Does it, like, rapidly disintegrate? If you're exposed to air, is it going to react vigorously with water? Like, if all you know is that it's some level of dangerous, you just have to assume the worst and, like, put on a hazmat suit and go work on a vacuum or something because you don't know what it is. And that just doesn't make much sense. That's why in industry, whenever you get a chemical, you have a hazard label on it that breaks it down into different terms of danger. So if you've ever seen them, they're usually these diamond things, and they'll be rated 1 to 4 in danger of the health hazard, so that's usually like you can breathe or eat it, it's toxic to you. The reactivity, as in like this stuff, it might explode, or reactive if you just even like knock it or shock it. And then the fire hazard, as in like, is it going to catch on fire rapidly, or what does it need to like avoid oxidation and stuff. They have specific hazards as well. So even at a glance, if you just see this, you'll get an idea of how dangerous it is. Like, okay, this is something that I should probably be working in a fume hood, or I gotta make sure I keep it away from open flames or something. That is how this sort of stuff is helpful. If we were to do this in Smash, it would be a rough change for most people because, as you can see, you would need a single chart per character. But it would be more interesting and more helpful for a matchup to say rank things, I don't know, in 4 different ways. Like, this is all theory crafting. I'm not trying to propose this as the new system. But say, like, we can focus on more objective things, like we talked about in part 1, like who fares better in the neutral, who has better offstage game, like how dangerous is this character when edge guarding or juggling. Like, we could actually focus on points of the matchup that will help somebody. If you've going into Ultimate, there's more matchups than ever. And so you have never played versus a Simon in bracket. And you're like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? I don't know how this character plays. You could look at this and say, okay, he's really dangerous off stage, as disjoint or whatever. I'm like, again, bullshitting this. I'm just making it up. But you know that you could maybe win neutral more. You gotta be patient or whatever. Like, you could actually take something away. And we could actually get to the third point, which is the point that bugs me the most about tier lists, is that they're just such a distraction from what we should be discussing. Matchup charts, despite the flawed nature in the last 2 points, are supposed to be serving as a point of discussion, a point of information in matchups. That the reason why we do this is supposed to be understanding the game more, delving into the meta. But every time I see matchup charts brought up, it's infuriating because so much of the discussion is arguing not the actual metagame, not how characters play, but like things like, oh, that matchup is 55-45, not 50-50, or a -3 matchup doesn't exist, or a -4 matchup doesn't exist, that's unwinnable, or like, just these semantic things. And that isn't contributing anything to Smash Bros. Like, say what you want, argue what you want, say that, like, oh, it's supposed to be the percentage of the chance that you're supposed to win, whatever. That sort of information isn't the sort of discussions that we should be having. It's distracting from what the core reason of these matchup charts is supposed to be, which is that we are discussing the weaknesses and strengths of each character in the matchup and different aspects of them, and dissecting it in a way that you can see, this is where I'm going to struggle as a character, this is where I'm going to be strong in this matchup as a character, and this is how I'm going to have to win. I'm going to press my advantages and try to cover my blind spots. And so, this isn't to say that good discussion has never come out of current matchup charts, but it's the biggest criticism that I have of them. Every time, if it's a top player, or even just some Joe Schmo in a Discord posts his matchup chart, the first comment that I see is like, lol, you think Dark Pit is -2, but Pit is -1? OMG. Like, it's so dismissive. There's always like this just focus on the numbers rather than the discussion. We really need to have some sort of replacement, or even just adjusting the way that we discuss. I know I'm just blowing steam otherwise if I don't try to propose something kind of similar to what I was talking about before. Like, we still might go into the same sort of issues that, like, say, Marth definitely has a +1 in advantage off stage versus Shulk. No way, it's even at worst. But, like, at least we're discussing more details. Like, I can see better discussions coming out of that if we're just breaking things down more into how does this character deal with being juggled by the other character? How does this character fare in neutral versus the other character? It's just that going into Ultimate, let's stop focusing on such trivial things. Let's stop trying to cut corners and make things easy and pretty. It's gonna be a deeper game than ever. There's going to be, I don't even want to think about the numbers, some exponential increase of matchups. And it's gonna be harder than ever to talk about them. But this is no reason to be skimping out on them, okay? If you're going to make a matchup chart, don't just slap it together and say, these are the low tier characters, so I'm +3 against them. No more of that. Okay? We want to take our metagame to the next level. We're going to take it to the ultimate level. Stop being lazy. Let's stop making these matchup charts and just contributing to the the obscuring of the relevant information, just all of the distractions of these different discussions, and we focus in on what we can try to be objective about, rather than talking about subjectivity of, this is 65-35, not 60-40. Like, that's not what we matter. We're going to take this game to the next level. We need to kind of clean up our acts, alright? That's it. That's my rant. We're gonna fix matchup charts, and hopefully Smash Ultimate will mean an even better metagame than what we had before. We're gonna have a lot of new players. We're gonna want to be welcoming and open with them, but our veterans also need to kind of pick up the reins here. Let's not make the same mistakes we did in before and waste hours of our lives discussing things that don't even matter. Okay? Let me know what you guys think in the comments, if you agree with me, if you have another idea of some sort of system that we could have in place instead of our current matchup charts, because really that's what we need. We need some sort of replacement. It might not be what I proposed with like the safety diamond, but who knows, alright? Thank you guys so much for watching. Share this video with other people if you agree with me, or if you just think that somebody else might have something to add. And as always, like and subscribe for more content from myself and Eric. We'll see you guys in Smash Ultimate with a lot more stuff, especially about Shulk, as you know us for. And we'll be seeing you soon. Thanks a lot.